Hello and welcome back to chapter 1.8 Operations with Decimals from Math in Focus Singapore Math Student Edition Course 2A. Okay, so here with the final section of first chapter, it has addition and subtraction of the decimals, multiplication with decimals, and also that includes percentage, and finally the division. Okay, and the real world problems, which will always still when we do independent practice exercise, as we have always been saying. So let's get started with the first part, add and subtract decimals. So let's say 2.5 plus 7.92, for example. Okay, how do we add these two numbers? These are decimal numbers, right? So you write here 2.5, 7.92. Okay, here you can put 0, though it's not given because 0.5 is same as this. Okay, so 0 plus 2 is 2. 5 plus 9 is 14. 4 here, 1 gets carried. Now you have your decimal point here. You will put that. 1 plus 2 is 3. 3 plus 7 is 10. So this is how decimals are added. Okay. If you have now, say for example, 2.5 minus 7.9. We did the subtraction. Okay. So the rules, as you do normally your subtraction, you do the same thing here. So 5 minus 9 is not possible, right? So we cancel this. We make it 1, borrow 1, right? So it becomes 15 now. 15 minus 9 is 6, right? And 1 minus 7, larger number minus smaller number. So 7 minus 6 is 6. And you put the sign of the larger number. So this is how subtraction is done. Okay, so this decimal should not scare you. It's the same method. Okay, it's just that you have decimals here and you have to put the decimals. So now say minus 2.5 and minus 7.9, right? Now you remember normal integers, when they have the same signs, you add them and you put the respective sign, right? So 9 plus 5 is 14. 4 here, decimal here, and this one gets carried here. 10, 7 plus 2 plus 1, and this is minus sign. So this is how addition and subtraction of the decimal is done, as you would do with the integers. The same rules apply here. Okay, you just have to be careful with the decimal point, and that's it. Now let's go to multiplication and say for example 2.5 times 1.1. You have to multiply these two numbers. When you do the multiplication, let's just keep it 25 and 11. Forget your decimal points for the time being, okay? Just for the time being. Let's do the calculations, right? So I put 0 first. 1 times 5 is 5. 1 times 2 is 2, right? Plus. Then 1 times 5 is 5. 1 times 2 is 2. So this is 5. This is 7. And this is 2. So now I will write this here 275, but I need to still put my decimal point, right? Now count the number of digits you have in both the numbers after the decimal, right? Here you have 1 and here you have 1. So this makes 2, right? So you count from here, count 2 and put your decimal point 1, 2. So you put your decimal point here. It's that simple, okay? So when you do the multiplication, you can do normally, assuming there is no decimal point. But as soon as you have your answer, you start counting. If you had, like this was not 1.1, okay? For instance, this was like 0.1. So you know now it's 1, 2, and 3, right? So this would be 275, 0.275. I mean 0.275, you never say 75 there, right? So this would be the answer. So count your decimals and put the decimal point accordingly. Okay, so it's simple, normal multiplication. Just be careful with the sign that you need to insert at its right place. Now let's say percentage. How do you do percentage? For example, 5% of 60. How do you calculate that? So when you say percent, you know this is 5 over 100, right? So if you divide this, it will be 0.05, right? Two zeros are there. So after decimal, you should have two digits. 5 is 1, so you put 0 over here. Okay? This comes from previous chapters. You can refer those chapters for more clarity. Then what do? Then you multiply these two numbers. So it's 60 times 5. Okay, as I said before, forget the decimal points for the time being. 5 times 0 is 0. 5 times 6 is 30. So this is 300, right? But how many decimal points? Now 60 doesn't have any. This has 2, right? So from here, start counting to 1 and 2. So the decimal point will be here. That's simple, right? So you just have to do those calculations and appropriately put your decimal point. Do your normal multiplications, okay? If you want to confirm your answer, let me share a strategy for that. So you can do this directly. 5 times 100, 5 over 100 is 5%, right? 5% of 60 is basically timing it with 60, and that's what you did it here, right? So I do it directly. Now I know 0, 0 gets cancelled here, right? Okay, because this means 6 times 10, right? So this is actually 10 times 10, and this is 6 times 10, right? So when you cancel 0, you're cancelling this 10 out, right? So that 10 is left, your 6 is left. Okay, so that's how I did my 0, 0. Then, 5 times 1 is 5, 5 times 2 is 10, right? 2 times 1 is 2, 2 times 3 is this. So what you are left in the numerator, 1 times 3 is 3. There's nothing in denominator, 3. The same answer. So this is the way to check, to confirm that what you have done here is right. That's the way to go about it. Now we have division. How are we solving this division sums? Any idea? How are we supposed to do the decimals? Let's take an example again. 3.913 divided by 1.3, for example. Okay, now as we did here, let's try and simplify it. Okay, try and have some numbers without the decimal point. So let's say this has 3, right? So you'll have to make it like times 1,000 basically, right? 3 digits, and this has just 1, so it's just timing with 10. So it's better we do this one, divisor, and that also makes our calculations easier. Okay, so this, we multiply both the sides with 10 now. So this becomes 3913. Where will be our decimal point? It will shift here because we multiplied it with 10, right? It shifts to the right. Similarly, 1.3 becomes 13. It shifted to the right, so it's after here. So there's nothing over there, right? So this is same as this. Okay, so let's start. 39.13 divided by 13. Okay, so we know 13 times 3 is 39. Remember, knowing your tables is very important for fast math. Okay, so 13 times 3 is 39. This is 0. Now you get your decimal here, this one. So you put your decimal here also. Okay, get the next digit 1. This is not possible, right? So you put 0. Get another digit. 13, 13, it's 1 times. Now we are in decimal, right? So 13, it's basically timing like this. 13 times 0, 1. 0.01, okay? So that's why you have 0.13. So this is 13 times 1, right? Which is 13. So it's like usually when you get it down here, if you generally avoid putting decimal because you've already put it here. Okay, so this is basically 13 to avoid confusion. And so 13 minus 13 is 0. You remember this is terminating from our previous videos. Terminating, this is not recurring, right? So the answer is 3.01. Okay, so this is how you do your division. Try and get your divisor in the norm without decimal form. Okay, so then your calculations become easier. So when you reach the decimal point, put a decimal point here in your quotient. Okay, and then carry out normally. Treat this as normal numbers without decimals. So 13 times 1, 13. Okay, you don't put your decimal here then. So this is what this chapter is about. Simple chapter, same as the integers that you do. Okay, like you just have decimal points here, which you just need to be careful of. So addition and subtraction remains the same. Make sure you put your decimal points at the right position. Okay, when you're multiplying, do normal multiplication, no problem. Add the digits after decimal and move from right to left. Count those many digits and put your decimal point. Okay, so let me give one more example here. For example, if your number was 2.750639, just random number, okay, and now your decimal digits, total digits are, this is sorry, 275. Okay, I'm not putting a decimal here. So if you had number like 0.3, I'm just this, you won't get this answer when you do this calculation, but I'm just taking random numbers. Okay, and you had 0.253, for example. I mean, they've multiplied, you got this answer. This is not the true answer. Okay, just an example. So you see 1 2 3, three decimals over here, right? And you have 1 here. So total is 4. So you start from here, 1 2 3 4. So your decimal will come here. Okay, I'm clarifying this is not the answer of this. I'm just taking hypothetical example to help you understand where to put your decimal point. Okay, then percentage, we said when we say some percent, this means that number over 100. Get the number, you multiply with this normal, put your decimal as we did here. And to confirm, you can go this route directly. So 5 times 100, because that's how we got this number. And then you timed with this, right? Directly you time it, you get the same answer. And division. Always try and get your divisor in without a decimal point. And to remove decimal point, you have to multiply with 10, 100,000, whatever the number is, right? So if you want to get rid of one decimal, it's 10 to number of zeros, right? Whatever you do with your divisor, you'll have to do with this number. So if you multiply this by 10, you multiply this by 10. If you multiply this by 1,000, you multiply this by 1,000. Okay, so be careful with that. And that's how you solve this chapter. And then based on that, you have real world situation, your word problems, or the story problems. This is simple. I hope you understood it. Any queries, any doubts, you know what you have to do? Yes, you have to put it in the comment section and I will try my best to answer. So that is it from this chapter. Remember, math is fun. Practice, practice, practice. Okay, have fun. Thank you very much. Bye bye.